Goodwill Podcasting. Your hosts, Stone, Dan, and Connor. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Goodwill Podcasting. Alongside me, as always, Dan and Stone. How are we doing, boys?
Good. Doing well.
Doing good. Baseball season starting soon. When does it start?
Next Thursday.
Shit.
Yeah. Well, I guess by the time this episode released, it'll be this coming Thursday.
Well, technically, it already started because they played that game in Korea, whatever. I don't know. They do that, and then they play more spring training, which is dumb. But there was already a regular season game.
Yeah. That technically opening day is Thursday.
Yeah.
To my knowledge. Which, like, being from Cincinnati, it doesn't matter how bad the Reds are. It's, like, the biggest holiday of the year in Cincinnati. Because the Reds were, like, the first baseball team ever. And so, like, streets for, like, miles shut down because there's, like, a huge parade every year. I walk in it every year. And then, like, it's just a massive party. And then, like, the rest of the season, because of how bad the Reds are, they'll be struggling to sell tickets.
Why are you a Red Sox fan?
When I was 5, my dad went on a Boston trip and brought me back a Nomar Garcia-Parra jersey and a hat, and I just followed him ever since.
Huh.
It's kind of the opposite for me in NFL because, like I've always said, if the Bengals and Niners met in the Super Bowl, I'll root for the Bengals because it'll be good for, like, Cincinnati, and, like, I'll root for the hometown team then. But in baseball, I'll root for the Red Sox if they ever meet the Reds in the World Series. I don't care. I'm a Red Sox fan first.
Yeah, I think Have you ever been to a Red Sox game?
Yeah,
Okay.
once.
Versus Cincinnati?
No, they were playing the Blue Jays. Because it was right after Stone. I don't know if you saw it since you're not as big of a baseball fan, but it was right after Bautista got in that fight at second base and got knocked out.
Oh, shoot. No, I don't know. I don't know if Dan knows about that. Yeah.
Odor. That was hilarious.
Yeah, I think that was like 2016.
Well, he didn't get knocked out. He got his bell rung.
Knocked on his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess knocked out. But
So you went to Boston for that?
What's up?
You went to Boston for that game?
Yeah. I mean, that was like, I think that was his first game back, I think, after his suspension from that fight.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Reds actually, they were solid. I think almost made the playoffs last year. I think they'll be better this year. They missed the playoffs by like a game or two, I think.
Yeah, it really all depends. I mean, the upper management, like the GM and the owner, just kind of suck. Like, and that's really all it boils down to.
Yeah. I think they were bad for so long. Now they have like a lot of good young players, and it's just like they almost can't be bad. Like they've just had so many draft picks.
Well, yeah, but the issue being too is like they still have Ken Griffey Jr., who hasn't played since I think 2011 on a contract. He's getting paid $3 million a year through like 2028, and then I think we're still paying part of Votto's contract. He's on the Blue Jays now. So.
Yeah. I'm a big Ellie De La Cruz guy. He's awesome. And they have like Steer and Strand, other young guys. I think this year they'll be a lot better. They're like a likable team too.
What's up?
They're like a likable team too. Like I enjoy watching them play. Like they're fun to watch.
Yeah, I think Ellie will be the biggest like ticket seller this year for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, he's gonna be the face of the game soon, I think.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how many bases he'll steal this year, you know, being in a full season.
Yeah.
Instead, I know that I remember texting you, Dan, when Philly was playing in the playoffs. And I guess for me and Connor's team, with me being a Tigers fan but not being in Detroit, how many Philly games do you go to a year, like a season?
Probably around maybe 10 or so. But 2 years ago, I was at the game against the Braves where Rhys Hoskins hit that home run. And I was also at the game that sent them to the World Series where Bryce hit the home run against San Diego. So it was absolutely insane. It's a great park. It gets really fucking loud, and it's really good fan base. So I try to get down there as much as I can, especially when it's nice. But yeah, sometimes in April and stuff, it's kind of miserable because it gets like cold and rainy and it gets really windy there. And a lot of times they start the season really slow, but once it gets nice, it's a good time.
I've only been to one Tigers game. I remember I went with my dad and my brother only Tigers game I've been to. And I'm into baseball, but I never watch it. I know, the rules and everything like that. But I remember it was like basically neck and neck the whole way. It was like 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, and then the benches cleared, and everything like that. So the crowd was really fired up. And then I think Miguel Cabrera hit a walk-off home run. And I was like high-fiving people that I didn't know. And, I was like, baseball rocks, man. So we went back to my car. And I remember my dad told me and my brother, he's like, guys, I don't know. I think that was a boring game. And me and my brother gave him an earful because we're like, that's the best you're going to get, man. I don't know. Maybe baseball's just not your sport. But that was fun.
For
That was
me,
good.
like,
That was good.
I don't watch as much as I used to, which makes me sad. So I'm gonna try and dive into it more this year, but it's so much more entertaining in person than it is on TV. I don't know how to like really fix that situation.
I
don't
don't
think it's atmosphere.
Yeah, I disagree just because I grew up watching it, but I feel like a lot of people, like a lot of my friends, just don't care. Or like my friends, I guess, are kind of split, like half and half, like big fans or just not into it. But I think it's nice because you can have it on without having to be like dialed into like every single second. But and they're doing a lot to try to make the game move faster and like all the rule changes, pitch clock, limiting visits to the mound and all. So I think they are aware and they're trying to make changes. But I'm a big fan. But I understand some people it's just not their thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like the buddy I started this podcast with originally, he actually left to go be on like a pure sports podcast that's like mostly baseball. And they're on like a 13 or 14-day road trip right now, podcasting out of the back of a van. Like it's pretty awesome.
I thought you were about to say like the major leagues. It's like, oh shit.
Well, he's doing a podcast with an old MLB announcer who kind of got kicked out of the league. Tom Brenneman, if that rings a bell to you, Dan.
Yeah. Yeah, not good.
He got kicked out for making like a derogatory comment about gay people stone.
Nice. That's who you're doing the podcast with?
Well, yeah. And but it honestly probably wouldn't have been like as blown up as it was. But who was it? Eugenio Suarez. Right in the middle of this announcer's apology on air, Eugenio Suarez hit like a walk-off home run. So it like just went viral. And now like every time there's been like a bad event too, Eugenio Suarez happens to hit a home run.
Nice.
Like so it's become a running meme. So it just keeps getting brought up every
Wait,
year.
that was Castellanos.
Oh yeah, Castellanos, not Suarez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now he's on the Phillies.
Yep. Yeah, because
fucking
didn't he
sucks.
hit 2 home runs in one game on 9/11 last year?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, he did. He has a knack for that.
All right, well, enough of the bullshit. I'm getting into our baseball themed episode, starting off talking about Field of Dreams. Probably one of the better baseball movies ever made, in my opinion. I know Stone might not agree with that.
I mean, I got a lot of talks recently about, I told you guys before, about the whole John Mulaney, I know Dan posted the video about, Jimmy Kimmel and everyone in the comments. I mean, naturally, everyone after the Oscars was like, John Mulaney's great. And I think that Field of Dreams bit is like part of his stand-up routine. So it just like works out perfectly for the Oscars, obviously. It's random, but, it's film kind of thing. But yeah, watched it for the first time this morning. I'm excited to hear why you guys love it.
You want to start, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, okay, part of my love might come from nostalgia because I did grow up watching it. But at the same time, too, like, I think the acting is overall, pretty good. I mean, you got Kevin Costner, James Earl Jones, which is funny because whenever, like, Ray Liotta gets brought up, I think of Field of Dreams first before I think of, like, Goodfellas or anything. I watched it so much growing up, and, like, obviously when you're a kid, you're not going to be watching Goodfellas, Cocaine Bear, all those.
Yeah. R.I.P., by the way.
Yeah. It's wild to think how good of a career he had, and his last movie ever was Cocaine Bear.
No, actually, I think another one was released after he passed away. I can't remember what it was, but
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't
But
cooking for it.
but back to why I like it so much too is like all the baseball history that is talked about throughout this entire movie, like given the backstory on Shoeless Joe Jackson and like diving through all these other players like Archie Graham.
I think it's that aspect of it too. I think the story of that White Sox team is a really interesting one. That a lot of people that maybe aren't as invested in baseball might not know about. Um, so I think it's cool as kind of a gateway to that. I think Shoeless Joe is one of the most interesting characters like in the history of the game, and I like the take on him a lot. I think it's a good performance. I think there's like obviously even maybe not as a baseball fan, but I think there's nostalgia built into the movie, like just in terms of the father-son dynamic. Um, I think this was the last role Burt Lancaster ever did as Moonlight Graham, so that's really cool to see. Um, he's definitely iconic, and I mean James Earl Jones. Uh, it's definitely a strange story, like you said, Stone. It's a little like surreal and odd, and like it's a weird movie.
Right from the beginning too. They don't mess around right from the start. You hear whispers.
Yeah, but I kind of like that like uncanniness. Um, and I think Kevin Costner is a big baseball guy. He um, obviously he did Bull Durham before this, so like kind of having him go back into the world, I think is cool. But yeah, I think for like Bull Durham, Connor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Field of Dreams.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it goes a lot into just growing up with a big appreciation for the sport. I think the historical aspect of it is what's cool for me, and I think the story is just kind of like fun. But what are your feelings, Stone? You just watched it for the first time, right?
Yeah, that completely makes sense. Honestly, I had never even heard of Shoeless Joe Jackson. I thought that he was made up because I looked up. Obviously, I was like, "Is this in any way based on a true story?" And it said basically explained the plot. It was funny. I read it on Google, and just by the words they were using to say that it wasn't, I could tell that they were being very sarcastic. Like, no, it's not true. So yeah, I didn't know about the history, and I didn't know entirely what was real and what wasn't true, and everything like that. I can definitely even more than I mean, I told you guys I watched two movies this morning, The Rookie and this movie. This is definitely a love letter to baseball. Absolutely. I could tell that by watching the movie. And they used this very interesting supernatural approach in telling, and showing all of this history. But for me, I guess because I'm not as big as a baseball fan as you guys, I guess the real thing that hit home at the end, because it is like basically the last scene or the last moment is between him and his father, and I think that connection between the two of them, or even that storyline of him or what they were trying to get across, that message for our main character, got lost a little bit in the baseball nostalgia, a little bit like that. So I don't know if that would have worked maybe if they told the story in a different way, like more, you know, straightforward rather than doing the supernatural approach. I don't know how they could have done that, but I was like, oh, okay, like I get why this kind of all happened now, but I feel like it could have been executed better. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
It's also just, I mean, it's an adaptation of a book, and it's pretty much like a one-to-one adaptation. So that's just kind of what it was. But yeah, I mean, I guess they could have like made changes to the book itself. But I think that's kind of like the center piece of the book is like that magical kind of aspect. So I don't know what that would have looked like. Also, I think in the book, Moonlight Graham is an actual. He was J.D. Salinger who wrote Catcher in the Rye. So they did change that and kind of create like that persona, which I think is interesting. But yeah, I think it was pretty generally faithful to the book itself.
I think I found it was interesting. I was gonna say I feel like it's like a sin that when we, talked about this episode that we didn't bring up the Sandlot at all. I feel like that might be the baseball movie. I'm not sure. Maybe.
In terms
I mean,
of like universal appeal, like for most people, probably I never really liked that movie much. I just not that I don't like it, it just never really like I guess was a big part of my childhood, kind of in the same like for you with this. So it's
Right.
just like I don't
It's
really
my
care
Field of
about it.
Dreams kind of thing.
Yeah, which I totally get. Yeah, but that's definitely probably maybe the most recognizable in terms of like if you ask most people.
Something I thought was interesting, just because I feel like that even more than the Rookie, because that's why I wanted to talk about the Rookies, because I grew up based on those two baseball movies. Was I thought it was interesting how James Earl Jones is in that movie, as well as Art LaFleur, who's also in this film. So the same two guys are in the same two baseball movies. And then I looked up Art LaFleur's filmography, and he's also in that movie The Replacements that you like a lot with Keanu Reeves. Dan,
Who does he play? Does he play the
he's just one of the White Sox guys. He's not really. You kind of see him. He's there. In the Sandlot, he plays Babe Ruth. Like,
Okay.
so I thought that was just an interesting. I was like, oh wow, maybe these two guys really just like baseball a lot. So I thought that was a little interesting tidbit there. But
Oh yeah. Okay, I just looked him up, and this guy's very recognizable. He plays somebody big in field. I'm trying to think who he actually.
kind of like a coach. He's just got that face. Like he's got to like, okay, this is a classic. Like Dennis Quaid. I feel like Dennis Quaid's in, Any Given Sunday and The Rookie. I feel like he's just got that face for like all American sports.
He plays Chick Gandil, who's their first baseman.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good. And I feel like for guys like that love the game, like it's probably so much fun to be in stuff like that. Like, you probably don't even feel like it's work. So.
Yeah, one of the things I like too a lot about Field of Dreams, which I'm surprised Dan didn't mention when he was talking about it, is that it's a movie that doesn't make the audience feel stupid. Like they don't have to tell you, oh, players can't cross this part of the line, or like they don't have to explain to you that that's James Earl Jones dying at the end. Like you just have to, understand it yourself.
Yeah, if this was a Netflix movie today, it might be really insufferable. But
Yeah,
they trust that the audience has a fucking brain and eyes, so that's good.
I will say you guys grew up in this movie. Like I said, just curious here. Was the little girl eating a hot dog beforehand? I didn't see it that she was eating a hot dog. I'm just curious.
I honestly don't know that I care, Stone. To be totally honest.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine. I didn't even that isn't even from the John Mulaney bit. Like she like collapsed. I'm like, oh shoot, like she broke her neck, and then all of a sudden he's like, no, she's got a hot dog in the gullet, and I was like, she wasn't even eating a hot dog, but it's not that big of a deal. That was a very abrupt scene. I'm not gonna lie, because automatically when you look down at her or the camera looked down at her, she's like blue, and I'm like, whoa.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, she's gone now. But yeah, I thought that was a crazy scene. I could say that. But something I thought interesting. I don't know if this is a plot hole or anything, but obviously, what's the guy's name they pick up on the side of the road?
Archie Graham.
Archie Graham, right?
Moonlight Graham is his nickname.
Right. So there's the whole thing where he leaves the baseball field and he becomes old, but he wasn't old when they picked him up. So I don't think it's a plot hole, but I was like, I think that's interesting how he was good before he got in there, but then, he left, he wasn't good. I don't know. That's something I was like, that's interesting.
I think he was stuck like in the same magic where he was at the same age that like all the guys would have been, and then when he came out, he was at the age, like an older age that he would have been, if that makes sense.
I did think it was a good scene though, how even though, his whole thing was that he really never even got to play, that he hit the ball but he would still rather choose being a doctor over playing baseball. I did like that a lot. I thought that was very, very good.
Yeah, it's a really good scene, I think. I also just love the dynamic with Costner and James Earl Jones. I think it's really, really funny when he's like pretty much abducting him. I like that scene a lot. I mean, anytime just getting to watch James Earl Jones act is special, I think.
Because he doesn't do it that often. I feel like he does more voice work. I mean, he has been in a lot of films, but the ones that like people, notice him the most in is a bunch of voice work. I would say maybe. I mean, I'm looking at he's in Doctor Strangelove. It looks like.
Yeah, I think he's also done a ton of. I think he's done a ton of Broadway acting as well. Like he's like a theater actor. But yeah, he's kind of done it all since he started.
Like I said, it just makes me think that he loves baseball. And it's funny because I kind of watching the Sandlot, I kind of grew up low key scared of him a little bit because that's what the thing. That's what was the thing in Sandlot. Like he was the creepy guy, across the fence kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and if you want to add on to that, he's also the voice of Darth Vader.
Yeah. My
So-
little boy brain didn't connect that when I was a kid.
I think I did just because of how much I did watch both of these films or
Yeah.
both of those films. So like I'm on the same page as you. Like I was like scared of him. Like
Yeah, I mean, I think probably his most iconic, maybe not his most iconic, but one of his most iconic like live action roles is as Admiral Greer in all the Tom Clancy, Jack Ryan stories. So like Clear and Present Danger, Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games. He's in all of those. And I think he's really good in that too. As kind of a presence. I like those movies a lot. I kind of grew up on them too.
Say, how old is my boy James? Let's look it up. James Earl.
I would guess in his 80s. If I had to guess,
86.
93. Oh man, he's getting up there.
that's crazy.
The legend.
I was going to say late 80s, but that's
Who's older, him or Morgan Freeman?
I think James Earl Jones. I don't think Morgan Freeman passed 93.
he's 86.
Yeah, there you go. There's your 86. They're gonna ask her to do like, hey, we have this movie coming out with Daisy Ridley. Do you think you could do your Darth Vader voice one more time? Just let the man be.
No,
So
did you
Clint,
see-
Clint Eastwood and James Earl Jones are born the same year, which is kind of wild.
Wow.
Clint's still pumping out his last movie, I think, right?
Yeah.
Good old Clint, man. It won't stop. Good for him. I mean, good for him. I mean, I don't know how guys do it. Like Martin Scorsese, like, I'm glad they're still Ridley Scott. I'm glad they're still making movies, but I'm 80. And I feel like a movie's a lot of stress. Like, how do you even get to that age with that much stress on your life kind of thing? Jeez.
Yeah, but I feel like you're a Scorsese, like you've been doing it for so long, like it's probably not,
Yeah, I guess.
that much more stressful anymore. And at this point, you're just doing it for your love of it. Like it's not like making a living for you anymore.
That's true. It's like, what else would you do kind of thing?
Yeah.
They also probably don't know how to stop working.
I was gonna say I don't fully believe that Tarantino's gonna quit after this next one.
I don't know that he'll quit. I feel like he might just do other shit. Like go
I think
into
it's just
like
right.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He said he does want to like tackle Broadway for a little bit. So that'll be interesting to see.
Good old Quentin.
But
Do you guys
yeah,
have any other last thoughts on Field of Dreams?
well, this isn't really a thought on Field of Dreams, but it kind of goes back to the nostalgia too. I don't know if we've talked about this. I play on like a vintage baseball team over the summer. We go by 1869 rules, so like all wooden bats, old school uniforms, no gloves. And we got the opportunity. We're going to be invited out. I think it's next year to go play at Field of Dreams. So that's going to be awesome.
That's sick.
That's incredible, Connor.
Yeah,
What was the
You play?
I'm center field
Nice.
because like probably the median age of the guys I play with is like 48.
So you have
Like,
the wheels.
Yeah, like I'm the youngest by I think 8 years on the team, which like so fastest and strongest arm probably on the team. And I'm not trying to like brag. It's just when you're surrounded by guys 10 years older than you and
Yeah.
more. Like we have a guy on our team who's 74 and still playing.
jeez?
How'd you
Yeah.
get involved with that?
My dad got involved when I was like 12. I don't know how he found out about it. I think he was just because my dad's a baseball like nut. Like that's why I didn't really get into football till I was like 19 because I just grew up on baseball. And so my dad found it and started playing. It's really cool. A lot of fun. We've played some teams from New York, Michigan, all over.
That's really cool. Jealous.
What is the baseball made out of in 1869?
It's still leather.
Okay.
But instead of having like the modern day stitching, it has what's called an onion stitch. So it's basically just 4 flaps that fold up.
Interesting.
It's slightly bigger, but it's just about as hard, but it gets softer because the material it's made out of. Like by the 9th inning, it won't be as hard as it was in the beginning.
That'd be really cool. I feel like I want to do that when eventually, me and my wife settle down, just like join some sports league kind of thing.
Yeah.
My sports league right now is going to a movie theater, and it's just party of one. But usually,
Dude, it's honestly going to see a movie by yourself is far better than going with like a group of people.
I wouldn't even know. Just kind of sad.
I 100% stand by that.
But I was gonna say, but what I grew up on for sports was basketball. I feel like that's where I have my most knowledge when it comes to like the history and stuff. Now, don't test me on that because I might have forgotten some. But I would say, speaking of which, for me, it was like Kentucky basketball, which I think that's very appropriate to talk about right now because
You do?
our coach sucks ass, and that's fine. I mean, it's not surprising. All honestly, just like casually gazing because I do like basketball, but I kind of don't like watching it when your team loses, And I just casually thought about the fact that Auburn, Kentucky, and Florida all lost. I'm like, oh, the SEC's trash kind of thing. So,
Yeah,
but
Yale.
yeah, that's my one little tangent I wanted to go on. But you guys' bracket doing okay?
I didn't even fill one out.
Okay.
I didn't make a bracket this year. I don't give a shit much about college basketball. I like try to, but I just struggle to care. College sports in general, I'm just like, I don't know.
I
There's
don't
enough
really-
going on in the pros.
Yeah, I don't really care about basketball at any level of the game. And then I don't watch like any college football besides Ohio State versus Michigan.
That's interesting because I feel like I don't know how I grew up and like this is probably my parents' mindset instilled in me was the fact that I feel like you like watching college more because it means more to them and they try harder. Whereas in the big league, obviously some do care in the NBA and the NFL and stuff like that, but they're also getting paid. You don't see anybody, sitting out for resting, sitting out a game for resting in college. Everyone's trying to give it their all kind of thing, but that's not the same in the NBA kind of thing. So that's kind of how I was raised on like viewing college sports, I guess, is that everyone's trying their best kind of thing. And then March Madness is fun because, it's very unpredictable. And I do like stuff like that.
I think it's also rough too because there's so many college teams that are just absolute dog shit. Like I was watching a game the other day for a little bit and it was like 21-14 at half, and I was like, I feel like I'm watching like toddlers. This is just horrendous. Like I don't want to watch a team miss like 15 jumpers in a row.
That is true.
I can't do it. But
Yeah. I'd much rather watch like hockey or UFC, which are two that I'm tuning into more and more recently.
I
you
guess
guys want to talk about Moneyball?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I think it's the greatest sports movie of all time.
Jesus Christ.
What would you put? What would
You want to tell
put?
us why?
I don't know. I think it is an impossible challenge to get like people who don't give a shit about statistics and everything else to care about a movie about statistics. And I think two movies ever have done that really well. I mean, out of what I've seen, I could be missing some, but that's Moneyball and The Big Short.
I just watched The Big
Maybe.
Short. I'm not a finance guy, and I know Margot Robbie and who else was there? Selena Gomez was trying to explain it to me. I got to watch that again because there's a lot of terms in there that I did not get. I also watched it on an airplane too, and I'm sitting in my seat like, okay, there's this plane, this stock. I'm struggling, but anyways, keep going.
No, but I think again, like the history of the game that they talk about in this, the accuracies are all fantastic. I think the way they built the team changed the game forever, which is like obviously the biggest telling point of this story.
But I think the question is, did it? Because the teams that do this shit don't necessarily tend to do very well.
The Red Sox, 2 years after the A's did that, modeled their scheme and won their first World Series since 1924 or 1918, something like that.
Wait, you talking about 2004?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that team was also, I feel like that team was built around stars. Like, they had like Big Papi and Manny Ramirez and Johnny Damon and Euclid and, I mean, like,
Was you
Pedro Martinez. Like, I think I'd be curious to look at what their payroll was like.
Yeah.
But it still is. I mean, it's interesting, and I think baseball is a cool game because a lot of teams almost have no choice but to do this. Like, it's so like with the luxury tax is make believe. So if you have the money, you can just spend the money. But smaller market teams are almost just inherently at a disadvantage. So I think that's what makes it a great story is that like you're kind of forced to do more or do something different to like even be able to be relevant or compete in any way.
Yeah.
Just wondering if from your perspective, Dan, what would you say is, I don't really have a thought on it, but what would you think is the best sports movie maybe?
I think it probably has to be a boxing movie. So like I would say maybe Rocky,
Okay.
Raging Bull, if you count that. I think Miracle is a better movie than Moneyball.
Yep.
Um,
I know Any Given Sunday is pretty rad, man. I don't know if you
yeah. Probably Hoosiers, maybe Remember the Titans.
I actually haven't seen Hoosiers.
You would like it a lot, I think.
How far away do you think it is from Coach Carter?
Like how much better is Hoosiers than Coach Carter?
Yeah.
It's such a different style of movie. Maybe like 5 or 10%, but like it's a different era. It's a very different, like it's such a different story. And that kind of like Midwest Indiana basketball is like such a unique like brand, I think. And just Gene Hackman is just Gene Hackman, so it's definitely worth watching. You might like Coach Carter, but I love Coach Carter. But I think Hoosiers is just a little more iconic. Have you seen Bull Durham, Connor, or not seen Bull? You just didn't know when it was.
No, I've seen Bull Durham. I just
Okay.
didn't know it was before Field of Dreams.
Got you. Yeah, I think that's a really good movie too.
I'd agree. I almost picked that, like how we do for the audience listening, how we two main movies and we each pick one movie. I almost picked Bull Durham for mine today.
Yeah,
What are you guys saying? I never heard of this movie.
Bull Durham.
Bull Durham.
It's Costner too.
Okay, I'll just look up Kevin
Yeah.
Costner. Interesting.
But Moneyball is great. Like I'm not trying to like, and I think it's from like a technical standpoint, it's like an excellent movie, and it like looks better than a lot of these movies, and like has better like technical aspects. I definitely love it. So
Yeah, and I like that it's just so like script driven, like for the most part.
yeah,
Like I think the script in this is fantastic. I think it maybe would have benefited if they like cut out the whole scene where like Brad Pitt's wife and husband or ex-wife and husband like got her daughter a step phone or a phone. Jesus, can't speak right now.
you're good.
Got her a phone. Like that just seemed like kind of irrelevant to push the story forward. Like he could have just picked his daughter up and like showed that like she had this passion for guitar and like he had these relationships, which might have helped him stay in Oakland rather than taking that deal from the Red Sox.
Yeah. And I think this is based on a book as well, too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was interesting that what's his name? Paul DiPodesta, the guy, I think he actually works for the Browns now. The guy that Jonah Hill's character is based on. He said he didn't want his actual name used in the movie, so they had to like create that character. I don't understand why that was, but I don't know if you guys know about that or why that happened. I just know that was a thing.
I'm not totally sure.
But I believe he works in the NFL now, doing analytics. I think he was with the Browns like a year or two ago, I think.
So what? He just likes working for notoriously bad teams.
Yeah. Again, is he really helping? I don't know.
It's so funny sometimes because like with me having a daughter on the way and like we're planning to have another kid later on, like just thinking about showing them all these movies and having to explain certain things. Like my kids and like your guys' kids in the future, if you're gonna have them, aren't gonna know them as the Oakland A's. So we're gonna be like, oh yeah, they moved. Like, just like I get that's a really small one, but like there's other stuff that I just think about that's gonna be funny to explain to them.
So, yeah, no, absolutely. But DiPodesta went to the Browns in 2016 as their chief strategy officer. He signed a 5-year extension in 2021, and he was a big part of what made the Deshaun Watson trade happen. So he might be kind of a fucking dumbass, if I'm being real.
Yeah.
Because that was a terrible trade and contract.
220 million guaranteed is insane for a sexual predator.
Yeah, and a bad quarterback, less importantly. But yeah, he's really a wild dude.
I mean, dude, I don't know if like Mahomes is worth 220 guaranteed.
No, it was a desperation move. But yeah, he's still with the Browns.
That's crazy.
Funny, when I watched this film, I remember watching it because I watched it a couple months ago, Moneyball, and I thought to myself at that time, I was like, this might be my favorite performance that I've seen from Brad Pitt. And then I watched a little movie. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's called The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Um, which I like that performance a little bit better. And I guess this is for Dan. I feel like you watch a lot of Brad Pitt movies, and why? Like, you really seem to really like Brad Pitt. I don't know if it's him. Like, you talk about him a lot. So I don't know if it's just like,
So
what was that? Sorry.
I'm also in that boat.
Well, I like Brad Pitt too. Yeah, I mean, I was looking through his filmography. I was like, oh, Dan covered that. Dan's covered that. You know, it's just like I feel like these are movies that people don't talk about a lot with him. Like Legends of the Fall is like one that came to mind, and then obviously you recommended Meet Joe Black to me. So
Yeah, I think he's takes really I think Brad Pitt's really fucking smart. I mean, he's like, if he wasn't working, he'd be an engineer. Like, he's done a lot of really cool stuff in terms of, or he'd be an architect. He's done a lot of really cool work at that field. He does so much like philanthropy. He was huge after Hurricane Katrina with helping rebuild down there. Like, I think he's an awesome human being, and I just like to support him. And I also think he's a really just smart, talented actor, and like, I think he takes really good roles. And even when he's in a movie like that I don't love, like Killing Them Softly, I don't really love that movie, but he's really good in it, and he's always trying. So I just am a huge fan. And yeah, I think I kind of grew up on a lot of his movies. So
he's big in the producing game now too. Big producer.
yeah, and I like that he's involved in the industry and like helping other projects and like yeah. I'm a big fan.
I'll say the only movie I can think of right now that he's coming out with, because you said he chooses his roles. Oh, I'm looking at it right now. I forgot. He's going to be in that Joseph Kosinski racing film. I forgot about that. The one who did Top Gun Maverick, the director. He's going to be in a Formula One racing film. And then also, this is the one that came to mind, was the movie Wolves with George Clooney. They're the two leads of the movie. And that's coming out later this year. Which the movie isn't called Wolves. It's called Wolves. Like, they didn't. I don't know if this is a mistake, but whatever. But it's John Watts.
I'm sure it's on purpose.
Yeah, who did the Ant-Man movies? So we'll see. Or not Ant-Man, my bad. Spider-Man movies. So we'll see how that is. Interesting. But
I wouldn't have faith if it was the director of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
I mean, John Watts, what he's done besides, he hasn't done really anything besides the Spider-Man movies. So we'll see how he does with that. But anyways. Yeah, this won Jonah Hill, or got Jonah Hill nominated for an Oscar, which is I think it was his first Oscar nomination, and then he got Wolf of Wall Street as well.
Yeah. Back on the Brad Pitt train too. Like it's an underappreciated scene in this movie is in the beginning when he's basically being ripped apart from his team. Like, he loses Giambi, Damon. When he finds out he loses Damon, like, it just pans in on him and his lip is just like quivering because of how angry he is, because, you know, there's nothing he can do now and his team is being gutted.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's such a good performance. I think it was probably a very helpless feeling when you were dealing with like teams like those Yankee teams. Like, I mean, when you look back for the last 30 years, I think the Yankees have had the highest or second highest payroll in about 25 to 27 of those. And that's so preposterous when you think about it. But like, it's got to be frustrating to be in management of like one of these small to mid-market teams and just feel like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? So, you know, I think that's where the value of someone like a Paul, where he has value, where even if he hasn't had a great career since, like, he came in with something new and a new idea to like shake things up and try to give them an edge. But, and also I think after he left the A's, he became the GM of the Dodgers, I think in 2004. And he was like he was like 31 years old, which is insane. I don't think that went very well. I think he was there for like 2 years, but that's still, his work in Oakland got him that job.
You look confused, Tom.
No, I'm not confused. I was just reading stuff about the movie. Sorry.
Oh, you did. Yeah, one comment I'm going to throw in there just because I can is Isn't it crazy how in like every great sport or baseball movie, the Red Sox are brought up? Field of Dreams, they go to a game at Fenway, and this one, they're in Fenway again, getting offered a job.
I'll say they're not in the Rookie, which I will talk about. So there you go, pal.
Fenway's a really cool place. You guys, wait, I don't remember if we talked, but you guys are both first.
Yes, yes.
I have.
Yeah, it's such a cool stadium. There's some like the way it's laid out is really strange. Like some seats you literally can't see anything. Or there'll be like a pole in front of you or like something ridiculous, but it's still a cool place. It's just so crammed.
Yeah, not that it's as good of a stadium. I mean, it's still a great stadium, but the Cubs Stadium, Wrigley Field, is kind of the same way too because of how
Haven't been.
I've been to Wrigley probably 10 plus times.
Nice.
No, Fenway is amazing, and in Stone, since you probably don't know this, it's funny if you look up like Wrigley Field in the outfield, there's one lone red seat amongst all these green seats. It's because I don't know if it's still the record, but Ted Williams hit the longest home run, and the red seat marks where that ball landed.
That's cool.
And I think he hit it right after he got back from World War II, because he left the Red Sox, was in the Marine Corps. I think he was a pilot, and then he came back, and I think that's when he hit the home run, if I have my history correct.
Nice. Another funny thing is both of these movies we just talked about, I think, got nominated for Best Picture, which is cool.
Really? Field of Dreams got nominated for Best Picture?
I didn't know about Field.
I am 90% sure, but
I'll look it up. I got you. Interesting. That makes me want to like it more. Like I said, maybe I should just like get a 10-year or follow baseball for 15 years and then revisit Field of Dreams. I'm like, whoa, the White Sox and
I think the MLB did great by like making a Field of Dreams game every year and like kind of bringing that nostalgia in, and I think it's a really good idea too.
That was recently, right? Like last few years.
I think it started 2 years ago. And it was the Yankees and the White Sox, and last year it was the Reds and someone else. I think might have been the Cubs. Maybe.
You were correct. It was nominated. Yep. This Dead Poet Society, Driving Miss Daisy, which won My Left Foot, and then Born on the 4th of July.
Wow.
I've still never seen Dead Poet Society.
You got to watch this. You'll like it for sure.
I know, and I love Robin Williams. I mean,
I didn't tell you guys this, but I mean, it's a known fact, at least Dan knows, that I haven't watched a whole lot of classic movies. This is kind of a little tangent here. I've not also seen Dead Poet Society, but 2 days ago, I watched Terminator 2 for the first time and The Matrix in the same day.
oh yeah.
So that was wild. And I messaged one of our friends on TikTok, and I was like, hey, because he posted tickets that he got Matrix, and I like DM'd him. I was like, hey, I'm not gonna say this on your post, but this is like I'm going to tonight, but it's my first time watching it. And he was like more jealous of me, the fact that I've never seen it before, and I'm gonna see it for the first time in a theater. I liked it. I didn't know about the whole. I put it in my review, but I didn't like the whole. I didn't know about the whole 2099 thing. 2199. I knew what the Matrix was, obviously from the joke of like, oh, we live in the Matrix. So I knew kind of that concept. But all of a sudden, when they went and there's like fucking ships flying around and everything, I was like, what's going on here?
Wait, why would you say that on his post?
Because I don't know. I secretly want to watch these classics that I haven't watched before. T2 though, fucking rips. Though. I'll tell you that. That movie's phenomenal. I liked it a lot more than The Matrix. I did like The Matrix, but T2 is really good.
Really? I think I like The Matrix better.
Same.
Wow. I don't know. Like I said, it was a lot to take in. I just really love the action set pieces and the things that were happening in Terminator 2, and especially because I watched the Terminator right beforehand. I've never seen the Terminator, and how much it elevated the story. Because the Terminator is kind of boring. It's just like, dude, he just follows him. You really don't know anything about Sarah Connor. You don't like. And I could only imagine watching Terminator 2 and the whole, plot twist of Arnold being good, but then you also have this emotional, there's so much characterization in Sarah Connor from the first film. There's no characterization of Sarah Connor in the film. The only thing you know about her is that she got dumped by a guy. That's all you know, right? The second one, there's characterization in her because of the first film. And then you add the component of, John not having a father and that whole dilemma. I mean, I was just fascinating. So it might have been the fact that it improved so much on the first Terminator. So maybe when I watch the not good Matrix sequels, it'll make the Matrix seem a little bit better.
I like the Matrix sequels. I didn't see the newest one, but I think 2 is really, really good, and 3 is like very solid. A lot of people don't, but I think if you're a fan of the story, like they're interesting and worthwhile.
It definitely seems like, sorry to cut you off, Connor. I was gonna say that Terminator 2 like wraps up everything really nicely. So I find it very, obviously they're milking it for what it's worth. So it was like what,
Oh,
three
wait,
more
you're
movies?
talking about Terminator, not the Matrix.
Terminator, yeah.
Got you.
So-
Yeah, the sequels are no, not.
Yeah. So, but then when I look at the Matrix, like I know it's common that people don't like it, but I'm like, there's so much potential here for sequels.
Yeah.
So, anyways, go ahead, Connor.
No, I was gonna chime off of Dan. I haven't seen number 3 for the Matrix, but I feel like I need to rewatch number 2 before I watch 3. This time, this isn't a spoiler, but it basically ends, and then 3 picks up right where 2 left off. Because I started 3, but then like something came up. Actually, I think that was when my wife had to go to the hospital. So I just
Yeah.
picked back up. But so I want to watch 2 just so I remember everything going into 3.
Yeah, I do want to watch the newest one. I've heard like a lot of people shit on it, but a lot of people like really liked it. It's supposed to be like really weird and meta and like strange. So, there's also there's so much controversy around the Matrix with whether that story was ripped off or not from multiple different places. So that's not ideal, but like still, the Wachowskis did something awesome.
I was gonna say, what's that old saying? Artist theft? Like,
yeah, but it's real bad. It's like someone was like, "Yeah, they just took my fucking story." That was like, it's look into it. It's interesting, but
is it like Star Wars Dune bad?
almost worse than that.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, but it's disputed and it's tough, especially as time passes. So I still love the Matrix and I like the Wachowskis.
They kind of rope it into what we're like talking about Kevin Costner a little bit. I knew that this 2 Matrix movies the sequels came out very close to each other. I looked at it, they came out the same year, which is crazy because Kevin Costner is doing that this year with his whole Horizon America Saga thing, like releasing a movie, I think 2 movies like a month apart kind of thing, which is going to be wild. But
Okay, so back to what you were saying, Stone, is my classic movie knowledge. Some of it is kind of rough. So like I always like I'm trying to go back. I haven't seen Dances with Wolves.
I think I've watched that a long time ago, but right now I'm busting through James Cameron. So I was halfway through Titanic last night, and I'm like, geez, man, there's an hour and a half. Like the ship's about to go down. I'm like, there's an hour and a half left. So
I'm not a fan of Titanic.
Yeah, me and my wife shut it off, and we're going to watch the rest of it tonight. But I just have that, True Lies, and I guess Piranha 2. So
The highlight of Titanic for me is just Leo's speech towards the beginning ish, where he's like talking about how he's a poor man and like you gotta appreciate everything. Like I like
at
that.
at the dinner table, yeah.
I like
I
that
got
bit
it.
of dialogue, but other than that, I'm just okay on the Titanic.
I'm telling, if you haven't watched it, Connor, because I know it's not as popular as his other movies, The Abyss rips. That movie's
I actually have seen it.
okay. The movie's great, but anyways,
I had a strange obsession with that movie when I was like 12.
it's really good.
My parents both really liked it, so I watched it when I was like young and kind of grew up watching it a lot. I think they put it back out in the theater. I wanted to go because I haven't watched it in a while, but I wanted to see it in the theater. It would have been so sweet, but I missed it.
That was the thing, was that they released it in theaters, I think, back in January, and the reason why was because on the back of the poster it said, "Hey, we're finally releasing The Abyss and True Lies on 4K and all this stuff," because they had never done that before. I think The Abyss was only on DVD for the longest time. So that's why they did it. But it's funny, I didn't know this. This is such a big tangent. But there are 2 versions to The Abyss. I didn't know that. And that's the version that they showed in theaters with the special edition. I didn't watch the special edition. It was just on Hulu and I just clicked on it. But it's interesting because it adds stuff. I'm like, okay, good. I wanted that. But it also adds other stuff where I'm like, I don't like that. Like it adds a lot more about Russia, which I felt like that was very much lacking. I feel like it was a weird side tangent why they were like taking this nuke and like just holding on to it for some reason. But then they give the aliens a more, like the aliens almost kill them. because of the war that they're causing. Like the aliens are like, hey, you better not do nuclear war, and they like raise these giant tidal waves and like threaten humans, like we're gonna flood y'all. They add that to the special edition, which I don't like that. I like that the aliens were just chilling down there. I'm like, oh, we'll just help you out and bring you back up. But I don't like that they gave them like an end of the world kind of meaning to them. So like I said, I like stuff and I don't like stuff. So I thought that was really interesting. But so baseball.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Philip Seymour Hoffman in this, I love. Like he can just do whatever the fuck he wants to do when he's acting. It feels like he's such a believable like Art Howe, just as like an old grizzled baseball manager, and like his dynamic with Billy, just feels so real. And like I don't know, he was just such a talented dude. And I'm not a big fan of Chris Pratt or Jonah Hill, but like they're so good in this movie. Scott Hatterberg was a really interesting guy, so I think Chris Pratt did a good job, and he learned how to play. Chris Pratt actually learned how to play the position for the movie, and I think he lost a bunch of weight too.
He was really thin in this.
Yeah, so he did a nice job.
It's like that's for the director. You know, Bennett Miller is his name, which I didn't know what he's directed, but he hasn't directed much. But all of his movies, he directed Foxcatcher.
Yeah,
and then speaking of Philip Seymour Hoffman, I know you posted a clip of him. You know, his reenactment of Capote, but he also did Capote as well, and then The Cruise. He also has a movie I was looking at, A Christmas Carol, maybe coming out, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if there's any news on that. And the last news was from 2016, so I don't really think that's happening anymore. But yeah, really good director too. So that might be why Jonah and Pratt or everyone's pretty solid in this.
Yeah, I was thinking about making a video about him. I was just talking about someone to him. I was talking to James about him the other day and just how good he is and how he needs to make more movies. But he's a really good director.
I don't know why he hasn't. I mean, I believe The Foxcatcher was nominated for Best Picture. So
is that 2013?
I'll look that one up too. 2014. Let me see here. I think some of these guys got a Oscar nomination for that as well.
Yeah. Any other closing thoughts on Moneyball, guys?
Explain statistics and this side of statistics a lot better to me than, I guess it's not statistics, but whatever.
I mean, it's based off. It's just a brand of statistics. I mean,
right. I say whatever was happening in The Big Short. I was saying it was a lot easier to understand what was going on here than The Big Short, which is funny that Brad's in both of those.
They're both just different variations of numbers.
Yeah. I feel like they did a good job too of like using exposition in a way that it's like the audience is learning with all the fucking dinosaur baseball minds about the way that they wanted the game to be modeled and played. So it doesn't feel like they're just like dumping exposition onto you, but like you're learning if you're someone that isn't as familiar with any of these concepts or what the goals were.
Yeah, I think some of the best scenes in this are like just when they're in there with the scouts, especially right after Jonah Hill shows up with Billy Beane, and they're like talking and like trying to adapt his new mindset for how to do baseball, and all the old scouts are like, no, we know how to do this, we've been doing it for 25 years, and Brad Pitt's like, maybe try something different, we're not working out right now.
Yeah, and it's funny because the game now has moved from a sabermetrics perspective in the exact opposite of this way of thinking. It's not on base percentage, it's OPS and slug and home runs, like the 3 outcome: home run, strikeout, walk. It's like all geared towards power now. And I don't like that way of playing. Like I prefer actually, I think, this kind of mentality. But so many teams just live and die with the home run. And I think that's why the Yankees struggle year after year, is because they're so power focused. And when you get to October, the pitching is so good, the home runs dry up. And when you're not getting that production, you're just striking out, you're not moving runners, like you have no offense, like it's gone. And I hate that fucking offense so bad. And the Phillies do it too. But
and it's funny, like the back and forth of baseball though, because like
at
the time this movie took place, it just got out of a slugger mindset, in the era of Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, the steroid use, which might have pushed them into this era. But I'm with you, Dan. Like I'd rather see, the more like on base, like play the game smarter, don't go for the wall every time.
Yeah, and like the Phillies lost to the Diamondbacks last year, and the Diamondbacks very much it was defense, pitching, and then like disruption on the bases, like get on base, steal bases. They were stealing that whole fucking series. It wasn't power, but it was like consistent chipping away. And then when you do get power, it's just like there's people on base and it's devastating. So yeah, I don't really like the way the game's played now that much, but I still love it. So it's interesting to see how things have developed um, over the years and how every team still just kind of have different perspectives on how it should be played.
What are your thoughts on like the pitch clock and everything that they included last year?
I like it. I think some guys were really childish about it. Like Aaron Nola took almost the whole year to adjust. He was like not able, and he was complaining about it the whole year. And it's like when you're in August, you can't be complaining about a rule that was implemented in spring training.
Yeah,
everyone else is dealing with it. You're not special. Like it's not going to change. And he ended up pitching better in the playoffs, but like I don't know, just it's to help the game and the health of the game and like to get more fans. Like it's just it is what it is.
I was gonna say back to me complaining in the beginning, like I watch less baseball, but it's because it's kind of slow to watch on TV. So
Dude, there were 4-hour games, 3.5-hour games, consistent. Like no one is watching that. I'm sorry. Like, and I'm a baseball fan, so and I don't need to see 30 mound visits and you adjusting yourself for 45 seconds before you throw the ball. Like just fucking throw the ball. Like
the only time I'd be okay with them like going back to the old way is if it's like Game 7 of the World Series.
Yeah, I can see that.
So you were talking about the director of this film, Bennett Miller. I'm even more surprised that he hasn't made anything yet because he was nominated for Best Director for his last film, Foxcatcher. And it's even more shocking that Foxcatcher wasn't nominated for Best Picture because it was nominated for Screenplay, Director, Supporting Actor, Lead Actor, and then Makeup and Hairstyling. But that's really shocking.
Well, what were the Best Picture nominees that year, Stone? Do you know?
Oh, yeah, let me go right back here. Whiplash, American Sniper.
Jesus fucking Christ, man.
Birdman. This is actually a pretty tough year. Birdman, The Grand Budapest Hotel, The Theory of Everything, Imitation Game, Selma, and Boyhood. So probably maybe just American Sniper out of there, maybe.
Yeah, but with ease, I feel like Foxcatcher is.
The rest of those are pretty solid, though. Honestly, but yeah, that's probably the one I would say. And then you also have Eastwood attached to it, so I feel like, and it's just that's such an Oscar movie, so I feel like that's what Foxcatcher had going against it as well.
You said this was 2014.
So the movie was released in 2014, so this is the 2015 Oscars.
I mean, yeah, I can give you like 10 other movies better this year than American Sniper.
Yeah, but
Nightcrawler, Interstellar, Whiplash, Gone Girl, John Wick.
Yeah, I might talk about this guy later today. What the fuck is this Christmas Carol movie?
It's like I said, I looked it up. I looked up his name, and I looked up just the Christmas Carol, and the latest news stories were from 2016. Like
you don't
right
need
after,
any more Christmas. Like, there's so many fucking variations of Christmas Carol. Like, all I need is the George C. Scott one from like forever ago, and I'm good. Like, it's so good. You don't need to keep doing the story. Like,
that'd be a really interesting video to do. Like, what stories you think that you don't get tired of, and then ones that you do. Because I know, like, one that I think of that's probably been done 4 or 5 times that just pops in my head first is like A Star Is Born. I know that's been done like 4 or 5 times, but Christmas Carol's done a lot more because I feel like it's just like it's Christmas time again. It's been 2 years, 3 years. Let's do another one.
yeah, the 1984 one I think is just a fucking absolute banger. With George C. Scott.
Might be the only one I've seen.
It's the only one worth. It's the only one you need.
No, I saw the animated one in like the 2010s. I don't remember what year that came out. But
I don't like those. That's like the weird where they do motion capture animation. I don't like that. It's like I can't watch The Polar Express because of that reason. It terrifies me. It's just horrible animation. I'm a big animation lover. It just looks weird. I can't do it.
See,
Polar Express is not a good movie. Sorry.
No.
I'm kind of excited for the Polar Express movie that's going to be coming out, I think, this year.
Really? This year?
I think it's this year. Have you heard about it, Stone?
Oh, on the Untitled Polar Express, doesn't give any news, but Tom Hanks is not attached to it, so I think that would be better because Tom Hanks played every single person in that film. I think he played the child. If I'm not mistaken, he played the child. He played the hero boy, the father, the conductor, the hobo, the Scrooge, and Santa Claus. So, yeah, I don't know why, but okay. He's probably a producer on the film, but
Guess how many adaptations of A Christmas Carol there have been?
oof.
12.
Let's do over under. I'm going 24.
It's 24.
Oh, look at this. Look at that. I just have the Polar Express popped up. I wasn't cheap.
No, I believe you. That was good. That's crazy.
insane.
Might have not watched The Matrix, but I can guess how many Christmas carols there are.
Yeah.
But
So,
anyways,
back to baseball from A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
these are fun tangents. I like it. Connor, I don't know if you want to talk about your movie first, because I've never heard of your movie, and it hasn't been watched a whole lot, to be honest.
Dude,
Little Big
I
League.
don't think many people have heard of it. Like 520 reviews on Letterboxd.
Being Mr. Baseball fan down here, Dan, had you heard of it?
I dead ass forget what you're talking about. What is you talking about?
Little Big League.
Yes, I've heard of it. I don't think I've ever watched it, but I've heard of it.
So what's funny is like when I was watching it, I looked up on Letterboxd. This is the only movie the director has ever filmed. He's produced some bangers. He produced When Harry Met Sally, Stand By Me, Princess Bride, A Few Good Men. But anyway, into the actual movie. It follows like our main character, Billy Hayes. Or Bill Haywood, not Billy Hayes. Who he's a 12-year-old who's like playing Little League, and his grandpa owns the Minnesota Twins. And he like follows him around, and like they just do baseball knowledge. This 12-year-old's knowledge is insane. And his grandpa like dies, and he gives his grandson the Minnesota Twins. Like it's his gift to him. Yeah.
Nice
and
gift.
the kid doesn't like the manager, and like they get into it multiple times. And so he decides to fire the manager and name himself manager. And so like you see like all these like MLB players, like, you know, are we really going to be coached by a kid who can't even get into an R-rated movie, which that's an actual joke in the movie. But one of the best parts of the movie is throughout the entire movie, because he takes over the team, I think, like 1 week before opening day. So basically about when we're filming this podcast. And like throughout the entire movie, when there's like games, they are just making fun of like baseball commentators the entire time. Like they'll be like, oh, don't worry, this guy will probably get a hit this time because he bats above 300 when it is sunny out and in the middle of May. Like the entire time they're just making fun of how they are. It's great. But you see him like trying to balance being a kid and also like maintaining his friends, but then also like trying to manage and own an entire baseball organization. Who doesn't have a winning record at this point, or like hasn't been known for winning for the last couple years. And he's like, he tells the entire team, he's like, all right, he's like, if you guys don't want to respect me, that's fine. He was like, if we don't win by the end of like June, he's like, then I'll fire myself as manager and I will hire someone. And he goes, but he's like, and he goes on this whole tangent about like, you know, you guys are playing a kid's game and like you should love it. Like everyone dreams of getting to this level. He's like, but none of you guys are even looking like you're having fun. So he just like starts letting them like kind of goof off and like have fun, and like they start winning. I absolutely adore this movie. It's never going to be like one of the greatest movies, like sports movies ever made, but it's definitely worth the watch. And Stone, you might not recognize all these names, but like Dan, who's a baseball fan, there's some big names in this movie, like Randy Johnson, Lou Piniella, Ken Griffey Jr.
I know Randy Johnson. He was a pitcher for the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Killed a bird one time.
Yeah.
Look at me. Anyways, keep going.
Like Ivan Rodriguez. Like there's some big names in it.
One of the best catchers ever.
Yeah.
He was the Tigers, though.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, I got him. Of course.
But yeah, it's just super funny. Like there's still, and it's funny because I probably haven't watched this movie in 10 or more years. And I didn't realize how many quotes from this movie I still like use. Just like that were in my brain, that like lines I've used my entire life that I didn't know came from this movie.
What was kind of your introduction to it, Stone? Like, remember when you first watched it, or Connor? Sorry, my brain just completely turned
I was
off.
gonna say probably 2 minutes ago.
No, honestly, my dad knew about it, and so we watched it. Like he still has the DVD at his place. Like, and if you guys want to watch it, it's still rented on our YouTube.
Oh shit! Yeah, I
Yeah,
gotta do that.
it's a fun movie. Like, I mean, you're not gonna think it's the greatest thing ever, but it's worth the watch and it's fun. And you'll be in a club with me of only 518 people to review it on Letterboxd.
Okay.
That's a good
How
one.
many stars?
If I were to be serious about it, it probably sits around 3.5. But I gave it 4 for nostalgia.
Okay, that's fair. Do you know where people can watch it if they want to watch it?
It's only available to rent on YouTube or Amazon right now.
Okay.
But no streaming anywhere.
No, dude, I don't know if, like it ever has.
That's the thing about, because it looks like probably not a big budgeted film, so that's annoying when it comes to streaming, because I feel like these streaming services usually are associated with certain production companies, and when it's not huge, then it's kind of like you can just rent it kind of thing. It's good that you can still rent it, but still, that's why it's like that's what I'm figuring why it's like that.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's just such a happy watch. You'll like be smiling the whole time.
Nice. Can I jump into mine? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
what you're doing.
I wanted to talk about Hardball with Keanu Reeves. It's a movie that's like, again, it's not like a great movie, but I feel like the performance is like elevated past what it could be. So basically, Keanu, he was younger in this. He's in Chicago. He's like a degenerate sports gambler. He's in deep with some bookies and basically takes a job coaching like a baseball team, like in the projects, pretty much, in Chicago. And a lot of it is predictable in that, you know, he plays it really well. He's a genuine asshole at the start of the movie. Like, he really believes he's just like a full-on gambling addict. He doesn't really care about much except what he's betting on next and like making money, whatever. And I feel like it paces out kind of his like evolution in actually caring about the kids and like helping them, and getting invested in coaching, like to support them and not just for the money. And there's like a little romance in there with a woman who works at like the school the kids are at, and she's kind of like involved with like helping him to understand like what a lot of the kids are going through like outside of the game and like what their life is like. So yeah, I mean, it's like you would think it would be just kind of like a simple kind of formulaic movie, but like the kids are all so good in this, and they're all like really funny. They have great chemistry together. You feel like you're just like watching it like a normal team of kids play any sport. Like, this is just normal. And they're like really just like charismatic and like they do a good job. And like I like Keanu a lot in general, but I just think it's a really solid movie. And there's some stuff happens that you don't expect, and it gets really, really sad, like out of nowhere, which is heavy. Also, Michael B. Jordan as a kid is in this.
Oh, sweet.
Which is really funny. And yeah, they shot this in Chicago. There's a really good soundtrack. This came out right after September 11th. This came out that weekend. So no one obviously went to the fucking movies, so it didn't make any money.
Gotcha.
But it's kind of like a lot of people, I think, as they discovered it was on cable a lot when I was growing up, so people liked it. And the kid who plays like the youngest kid on the team, G Baby, he had never acted before, but he was like everyone's favorite character in the movie. So yeah, I've always liked this movie a lot, and it's one of my it's probably my top 10 for Keanu. Like I like it a lot. So if you've never seen it, it's a good watch that I think is still effective. I'm trying to see where people can watch it if they haven't seen it.
I've seen it, but I know what heartbreaking scene you're talking about.
Yeah, it's streaming on Freevee, Pluto TV, and Hoopla, or you can rent it on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, YouTube, etc.
No, I haven't seen it. I was gonna say when you say that it's the soundtrack is good, I feel like when we did our football episode and now watching these baseball movies, is it a typical sports early 2000s soundtrack? Because I feel like remember the Titans, then I watched the Rookie. I'm like, well, I guess those are
No,
both Disney Productions kind of things, but it's like they all have the same kind of tone in the movie, so they all have the same type of soundtrack. If that makes sense.
no, it's a lot of I mean, it's a lot of like R&B and rap
Oh,
from like the time.
okay,
And I
that's
think
sick.
like Bow Wow and Lil Wayne did a song for the movie. That's fun, but the one kid like has to listen to Big Papa when he's pitching, like to stay in like rhythm. That's like his thing.
That's cool.
Um, so there's a lot of good music all throughout it.
Nice.
And yeah, it's just a nice like uplifting movie.
This guy's done a lot of the director Brian Robbins has done a lot of interesting films. I was looking at it. He's done like Norbit and The Shaggy Dog, but then you also have one random sports film which I looked at. I've never heard of this called Varsity Blues.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
It looks like
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
I think it's
yeah. Let's say it's that Paul Walker and John Voight is the coach. It looks pretty decent. I was just reading up on it, but
And I mean, also like Michael B. Jordan is also really fucking good in this movie.
yeah.
Like he's a little bit older, um, but like he's genuinely excellent. Uh, and this is just one that like Rotten Tomatoes is at a 41% for critics, 70 for audience. Like 41% is a joke. Like it's really solid.
yeah. From memory, this is like childhood, but I think I remember it being much better.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my pick. Um,
Yeah.
that's
That's
all
one
I
thing
got.
I mentioned on Little Big League too is the soundtrack is great for that. But yeah, now I want to go rewatch Hardball.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad, but it's a solid movie.
I think I might watch that tomorrow. I think I'm gonna watch the new Nickelodeon documentary tonight.
Yeah, I got to finish that. I started that, but the whole video that I made, I knew all about the Drake Bell stuff that came out about that, but I won't get into that.
Yeah. I like
Yeah.
all the stuff coming out about Jerry Trainer though, and like all the stuff like it looks like now that we are looking at it clear, like he's like trying to protect the kids and everything. Like he always seemed like a good big brother role for them.
Yeah, I think that's when controversy and obviously terrible things happen. You also get to like figure out who the good people are, kind of thing. So there's bad and then there's good, you know. But you want me guys get into my field of dreams?
Yeah.
All right, The Rookie. So I know I made it a joke. There is no dead spirits in this talking to anybody. No corn, and also nobody choking on hot dogs. But I grew up with The Rookie. It's a true story, which I thought that was really cool because I'm like, this seems too good to be true, to be honest. I guess that's what makes the best movies. But Jim Morris, Dennis Quaid plays him. And I also just think, and this might be nostalgia, just an actor that I have nostalgia with. I really like Dennis Quaid and whatever he's in. I was really happy when we did the football episode to see him in Any Given Sunday. Like I said, I feel like he just has this guy played sports kind of look to him. I grew up on The Parent Trap a lot with Lindsay Lohan, which is a banger of a movie. If you guys haven't watched it recently, the movie's really good, and I was shocked how good it was.
Yeah.
Lindsay Lohan's acting in that is actually pretty impressive.
Phenomenal. And then I also grew up on Day After Tomorrow, Mr. Jake Gyllenhaal fan. So I have a really soft spot for Dennis Quaid. I just think he's always really solid in whatever he is.
I don't know, man. Have you seen A Dog's Purpose?
No.
One of the
Fun
worst.
fact, we talked about it a little bit before, but my father has met the gentleman who wrote those books for his work. I think there's like a dog's purpose and a dog's plan and a dog's, I don't know, another P word, but anyways. So yeah, Jim Morris is a guy who moved to Texas. Dennis Quaid plays him, and basically he loved baseball, wanted to play baseball, but he had a father played by Brian Cox, which I forgot that he was in this movie. And great casting choice for Brian Cox, just a really rough dad who doesn't really give a shit and like I'm in the military kind of perfect casting. But basically, he basically settles down in this hometown and he does a little bit of baseball, but he hurts his shoulder and he settles down and, just ages up and becomes a high school baseball coach. And I really like this movie, how it's structured. because it's kind of two stories in and of itself. Because you have like kind of the first half is his high school team that he's coaching sucks, and they overcome and really want to train because they don't really think that they're good, or they really don't care about baseball because one, their school doesn't give a shit about them, and their field is like there's no grass on it, and they care about football because it's Texas. But they see their coach pitch, they see Dennis Quaid pitch, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's good. He's got potential." Even though I think he's like probably. I mean, Jim Morris was 35, so I'm just going to assume that Dennis Quaid's also supposed to be the same age in this film. But basically, they decide to actually train their asses off because their coach makes a deal with them, and he's like, "No, I don't want to pitch anymore. Like, I'm going to mess up my shoulder again." But they're like, "Hey, if we win district, will you go just try out somewhere?" So I thought that was, a really cool compromise that happened in the beginning. But then the second half of it is, he trains, he gets callbacks, and he eventually goes to minor leagues and then the major leagues as well. And comparing it with Field of Dreams, because I watched both of these movies this morning, I feel like this movie does a lot better job of where I wanted Field of Dreams, in my opinion, to do a better job is with the father and son dynamic between Brian Cox and Dennis Quaid, because that's what like you start out with, and they spend like probably 10-15 minutes just setting up the relationship that Brian Cox and Dennis Quaid had when Jim Morris was a child, and his father, saying forget baseball and all this stuff. And when you find out when he's older, his father really doesn't interact with his kids much, and his parents got divorced, and you can tell that these are repercussions of just the person his father was, and his father is broken because of this, and he's trying to do better. He has all of his baseball stuff hung up on his wall, even though growing up he didn't give a shit about. So his father has changed, but because of the past relationship between the two of them, there still is a separation between the two. So then you have, the end of the film where his father shows up and it's like, "I'm not going to miss this one. Like, I'm proud of you." And he gives him I guess it's a spoiler. I'm recommending this, but he gives him like the game ball. He didn't even give his wife the ball, but he gives him the game ball and says like, "Hey," and they have a really good emotional moment. But even comparing it with Field of Dreams again, I feel like this does a lot better job with, and this isn't the point of Field of Dreams, but I like the family dynamic here. Kevin Costner's like, "Peace out, deal with the mortgage and all that stuff. I'm gonna go to Boston or wherever he goes." This it's like his wife and him really have an inner battle with each other because she knows how passionate he is about the sport, but they also both realize how old he is. But they also both kind of realize that he has potential. So it's a very difficult spot to be in. And he's not going to make a lot of money when he's in the minor leagues. So it's very similar to Field of Dreams. She's by herself and trying to pay the bills, and he's calling her up and helping his son with math homework and everything like that. So I think that I really enjoyed it's just a feel good story where I feel like Field of Dreams is a better baseball movie. This is just a good story in and of itself that happens to be, you can do this with basketball, but it just so happened to be baseball. And it's crazy that it's a pitcher too, because I feel like it's the hardest position to play in the game. Possibly when it comes to wear and tear on your body. So it's just overall a really good story. And also the kid, let me think about his name, the actor's name. The guy who's in 2.5 Men, who plays the young child, eventually grows up. Angus T. Jones is in this movie. And he's just a really adorable kid. I don't think his acting's really good in this, but he's a really adorable kid. Michael B. Jordan might be better in Hardballs, but yeah, like I said, I even got emotional during this movie, where he, gets called up to the major leagues, and he's just so excited to tell his wife, and she's freaking out, and it's really cool too. It really connects the two stories really well because everyone it just so happens that the very first game that he's playing he plays for the Tampa Rays, is in Texas against the Texas Rangers. So he flies out to Arlington to Texas, and that entire town who loves him, not only for him being a coach, but they won districts, and everyone, it's a very small town. All of them come to his game versus the Rangers, and they're all there supporting him and cheering him on, and they're all there at the end. So I feel like the two stories really come together really well. So yeah, it was just as good as I remember, kind of thing. I don't think it's nostalgia, but it might be. But I just think overall it was a very well put together film with a very good emotional story, very good lead actor. And yeah, so I enjoyed watching that. I got done with it probably 6 minutes before we jumped on here. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, have you watched The Rookie?
I watched it growing up. Remind me, is this like one? Is this the movie where there's like a scene where he like just pulls off into a dirt lot and he's like has or like sets up like a pitch clock to see how fast he's throwing?
Kind of. He like
Yeah.
there's like kind of he just goes out in the middle of nowhere and like pitches against a fence. I would say there is. I think I would say this is a pretty iconic scene. Is he's just driving one night on a road and he drives back past the speed limit like reader and he backs up a little bit and his son's chilling and he's like, you know what? He gets out of the car. It's like really late at night. And he takes a baseball and he's like, will this actually record me? And it like says 46 miles per hour. And he's like, oh shit. So then he like tries to actually like throw a heater and it's like, it says, I think 76. And he's like, oh shit. And he like goes and gets the baseball. But as he's passing the speed limit sign, the 7 corrects and it's actually a 96. I feel like that's one of like the most iconic scenes in the movie. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but I really enjoyed watching that scene again.
Yeah, again, it's been since I was a kid since I watched this movie, so like I don't remember anything you just said, but like that scene stuck out in my head for some reason.
That's probably I would say the best scene in the movie. I would think. And there's nothing special about it. It's just the setup. And yeah, it's really good. But do you like this movie, Dan?
Yeah, I think it's solid. I think it's probably like a top 10 baseball movie. I think the downside of a lot of these movies is that they are pretty formulaic at the end of the day. And I think that's one nice thing about Moneyball is like it's not exactly like a happy end. Like they don't like win the World Series. Like it's just about like it feels more real. Like not I mean this is real. It's a real Jim Morris is a real guy. But it's more like it's not a happy ending per se, but it's still a great story. So yeah, but I still like this movie a lot. I like Dennis Quaid a lot too. And Jim Morris was a really interesting guy in real life. I mean, I think he was a big he's a very Texas guy. He was a big football star in high school. His school didn't have a baseball team. So then when I think he did get into baseball, like he just got injured so much. I think that's the other interesting part of this movie is when you're talking about like with his wife and their dynamic, like it's also considering like I could get an injury that was going to like affect my actual life. And that's like, it's something else to think about, especially as you get older and you can't just heal like that. So, and back then, it's not, medicine and sports medicine were not where they are now. So it's a little bigger of a deal. So, yeah, I think it's a good movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you were talking about hardball, I think you said it's not formulaic when it comes to hardball.
No, it is, but
okay.
there's some moments that will surprise you. Like
I think
in
maybe
general,
we'll talk about Moneyball. Because I would say that is my one issue. That is my one issue is that it is very formulaic. Everything hits really well, but you know exactly kind of how the rookie story is going to go the entire time.
Yeah.
But I will say something that's very interesting that the movie opens and closes with is I don't know if this is true, but it's very interesting is the fact I think there was it's like the 1900s and there was someone who went out to Texas and he was trying to get oil, I believe, and stamp this land for oil. And he made a deal with some nuns, I believe, that gave him some money. And they went back to a priest, and the priest is like, no, get that money back. And I think they're like, we can't. And they're like, okay, well, go and bless the land with rose petals. So they go over to the ground of Texas and bless it all with rose petals. And the movie opens and closes with that. So it's like, this might be why this man magically was able to do this with his life kind of thing. It opens and closes with that, which is very interesting. But yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but
that is interesting. Strange.
Yeah. I did not remember that. That's not one of the scenes that popped in my mind. When it opened with a bunch of nuns, I was like, I honestly thought I clicked on the wrong movie, not gonna lie. But
one scene I've got to talk about in Little Big League, my pick, was there's this scene. It's in the beginning, first 10 minutes. Billy and his grandpa are walking out of the Twins stadium after they just watched a game together. And like I said, they do baseball trivia back and forth all game. And he asks his grandpa, he's like, who was the first black baseball player? And his grandpa was like, well, I think what you want me to say is Jackie Robinson. And he goes, but it's actually Moses Fleetwood Walker. And that's actually accurate. Moses Fleetwood Walker played on an MLB team, I think. Yeah, MLB team in the 1880s. But like no one really knows about it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's one thing I had to look up during the movie last night just to make sure it was like accurate. But
The other funny thing with the Rookie is like sometimes with these movies, like it is a little funny because like I think he threw like in his career like 15 innings and like got rocked in reality. And he got cut in like 2000, and like 2 years later Disney's making the movie, which is really quick, but it's still like regardless of how he performed, like it's still there's so many fucking baseball players, and to crack a major league roster is like a huge accomplishment. There's so many guys that just like toil away in the minors forever, or
When I think about these movies and I'm like, why do I think one is better than the other? I think automatically what I think to right away is Remember the Titans. Like I think Remember the Titans is a better movie. Why do I think Remember the Titans is a better movie than The Rookie? That's something I try to think of, even though I had nostalgia for both films. And I feel like it's because there is quite a bit of side characters in this. Like there is a couple of like three older gentlemen in his town. There's guys on the baseball team. He also has a fellow baseball player that he connects with in the minor leagues and the major leagues. I would say that something I would like in this movie that Remember the Titans does well is they make those characters a lot more memorable. The side characters. Like I remember Ryan Gosling. I remember a lot of football players, even though Denzel and what's the guy's name? What's the other lead actor's name? Bill Patton? No.
Bill Patton. Paxton.
I said the side characters are just as memorable as them, and it's not here. So that's one thing I would have liked a little bit more. And I don't know how they could have done that. That's a difficult task. I think that's what makes Remember the Titans so unique. But that is one gripe that I have with the movie, I would say.
It's Will Patton.
Will
Patton. Somebody completely different. I don't know where my brain was going. But yeah, Will Patton.
I got you. Okay. But yeah, solid though. I was not disappointed. Like I said, I was very surprised that I got emotional. I was reading reviews of Field of Dreams and they're like, oh, I couldn't take it. Him and his father at the end. And I was a little confused because I thought he didn't tell his father right away who he was. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to keep it a secret. Then his dad starts walking away and he's like, Dad. And he turns around. I'm like, oh, so I guess in your conversation, you actually did tell him who you were kind of thing. But on the fifth watch, I'll be emotional with Field of Dreams. I promise.
Any more thoughts on The Rookie, Stone?
Watch it. It's solid. Like we were saying with all of our films, I didn't have to think twice about where it was streaming at. I'm like, Disney movie, typed right on Disney Plus. There it is. And you can stream it there. Obviously, you could probably purchase it other places as well, but that's probably the most convenient place that it's located. But yeah, it didn't disappoint me on rewatch. Like I said, a little bit formulaic. Wish the side characters were better, but I love Dennis Quaid. It's a good story, and I just like the structure of it as well. So, yeah, solid.
Anything else you boys want to cover?
I feel like we covered it all.
Yeah. All five movies. Sandlot's pretty good too. I'll just put that in there.
Yeah. I feel like that'd be like talking about war movies and, bringing up.
Private
Ryan.
Yeah, thank you.
See, we both thought of the same. That is like the war movie kind of thing.
Yeah.
I should have said American Sniper. That would have been so funny.
It was like the people in my comments when I replied to your video about what's your favorite war movie or military movie. And I didn't say it, and people in my comments were like, how are you going to leave out Saving Private Ryan?
Right.
Everyone's.
Gets you good traction, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I had my joke on my one video about not thinking about who I didn't know who J.K. Simmons was, and that's like 200 of the comments is like, how do you not know who J.K. Simmons was? I was like, it was a joke. It was a joke, y'all. But
people are so dumb.
Good for traction, though. Good for traction.
Dude, it's the best strategy is just to leave out some important piece or act like you don't know something that's like common knowledge, just so people chime in your comments, push it out.
Acting like you think Paddington is scary, stuff like that.
Yeah,
What?
that'll do it.
Did you do that?
Yeah.
It was
I
just a
did
joke. Everyone posts these like, this is the craziest horror movie you've ever seen. So I just posted a Paddington picture.
By the way, Dan, you had my wife like dying laughing with your video talking about your dating coach.
Yeah, that guy was a fucking potato.
I must have missed that.
Yeah. This guy, I'll just send it to you.
You had a dating coach?
Yeah, some guy in my comments.
Oh, I thought you meant like literally you had a date. Oh, okay. I know which one you're talking about. Okay. I know which one you're talking about. The basketball guy.
Yeah, no, I don't have a real dating coach.
I was like, how does that work? Okay, I got you. I know which one you're talking about.
Have
You're
you
good.
never seen Hitch?
Yeah, I was like, Will Smith's just, following you around. Okay. Now I'm on board now. I know what we're doing.
All right, boys. Well, it's been fun. Any closing thoughts from you two?
Go watch baseball on Thursday, even though it's not opening day. Korea got that first, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Otani.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that.
Yes, I knew it. Okay, I was like, that's my one baseball thing I know, so I got y'all.
You know
Dodgers.
what's going on with him, right? Is that what you're referencing?
No, if there's something going on with him, I didn't know what was going on.
Oh, they're investigating him for betting on games.
Well,
It's a crazy situation, honestly.
Yeah, his translator already got caught betting on games.
Oh gosh. Well, he had a good run. R.I.P. Otani. Well, my bad.
All right, boys. Till next time.